So let me start. So, hello everyone. I'm so happy to welcome you here. This event is part of something very big. It's a part of Agile 20 Reflect Festival, a global festival which has already almost 800 free online events happening all over the world in different languages. So you guys, if you also want to have an intensive, deep dive into certain language, whether it's English, Spanish, Russian, German, French, then this is the chance to have a couple of webinars a day. They say that an apple a day keeps a doctor away, and we truly believe that a good webinar on Agile a day keeps coronavirus and all the things away. Of course, this is not a medical statement, but it's proven to really drive your intellectual horsepower, inspire, empower, connect, network. So we're here to share generously everything we know, all our secrets on Agile. And as you know, Agile is something which was born initially in IT industry, in technology, but then somehow it got so useful for people that it went across different industries, different segments. And here on the Agile Festival, we're not only doing Agile for businesses, for startups, for corporations. However, the most successful startups and the global corporations, they adapt and they work as per Agile, Scrum, Kanban, pulse management, lean, and all these things, which sound, a bit scary to me. I'm I'm just starting in the world of Agile, and we have here an expert, Yury. I cannot say your surname right. You will do it, Yury, yourself. But Yury has years of experience and will share with us how we can use something that changed the world, the corporate, the business world, and also change the personal life. How can we use it specifically being students, pupils, learning, studying, managing research projects, study projects, writing our bachelor or master papers? Because the Agile thing is all about a mindset change. It's about a whole approach, a whole philosophy. And with this session, you can be creative and you can think, okay, apart from my university, apart from my study process, how can we use this in our personal lives? Because the biggest project we have is actually our life, and every day is a little project. And when you're a student, isn't it difficult? Because you need to study, you need to do homeworks, prepare some research articles, you need to balance it most probably with your work, with your personal life, getting in love, breaking up. And this all is something which we can call project life or project education. And this is a complicated thing. We really need some methods. Just to introduce myself, myself, I am university professor, I'm marketing strategist. I'm now making my PhD in neurosciences, being very passionate about neuropsychology. And I can say that what neuropsychology tells that people who are happy, who are balanced, and they feel good as people with other people, they actually work better, they think better, their brain really delivers better. So for me, Agile is all about being human, being people-centric, but also having some framework, some guidelines, some principles, values to stick. And I think starting this while you're a student is really a really good idea. So what else I need to say? I need to say that this festival uses a hashtag myagile20reflect. So if you can make a photo of you and us and then share it in social networks with the hashtag, we will be thankful, because it is volunteer based, and we're collecting and collected some donations to spread the word all over the world. If you go to our Agile website, agile20reflect.org, then you can find some extra information, the places to donate, and you can still register your event actually, because the festival is until end of February. You can find, I think, more than a couple of hundreds events for you, matching your interests and your languages. You can also subscribe to our social networks, because the festival will not just stop on the last day of February. There will be more activities, networking. That's a fantastic place to meet people, and I'm so happy I actually met Yury. Yury is fantastic Agile expert, but But please, Yury, tell more about yourself, and let's start this session on agile iterations for efficient processes when you study or do any research project. So the stage is yours, Yury. You can share your presentation. I'm stopping my only slide. And while you're connected, let's see who we have here. We have a teacher from Moscow, Victoria. Hello, hello. Our project is our lives. Yes, Terence, this is VIP project for all of us. We have people who already used Agile Scrum outside technology to build a community garden, and also use personal Kanban and very interesting educational Scrum framework. Thank you so much. We have Russia online, we have Sweden, we have another professor in Moscow. I'm so happy we have the teaching staff, because if we are more agile, if we design our courses in a more agile way, then we also help our students to be more agile. Thank you so much for your contribution. We have Finland here. That's amazing, isn't it? And we have a senior Scrum Master. And London. So we're so global and international. Please feel free to drop a message in the chat, and please write your questions. And Yury, we will be happy if somebody's using the video and the audio as well in the end of the session, just to connect and have a human touch, right? So the stage is yours.
Okay, thanks, Yury, for this great introduction. So I'd like to start with the session. But before, I saw a question, not a question, but this message dropped in the chat about Edu Scrum. Just to clarify on this matter, so we will not touch Edu Scrum here in this session, because it's a bit more specific matter. So the main topic here is that I'm going to show you some basic introduction to Scrum and Kanban, and how to use it in the learning or research process. So, and Edu Scrum, it's a bit more focused on this, on schools and introduction of agile principles and values to children. So, but I'll be happy to talk to Doug, who dropped this message when we have our Q&A session. So Doug, will be very interesting to hear about your experience with these agile practices in your life, okay? But now let's start with the session. So before we start with the content, just give me a second. Yeah, right. So I'd like to say thanks to all the organizers of this amazing event and this great opportunity to deliver sessions and sharing knowledge. So it's very nice to be here. Now I'm going to talk a few words about myself. So I'm a co-founder and faculty director at Flex Growth Group. We deliver high quality professional courses on agile, innovation, and process improvement topics. So I have more than 8 years of experience in the technology sector. I hold PSM I, II, SAFe, Agilist, and many more other certifications. So, okay, this is it. Now let's review our agenda. First, we will review a product approach. So it will be a basic introduction to Scrum. Then we're going to review a flow approach, which would be an introduction to Kanban. After that, we will see what's it all about when we apply it to learning or research process. So what are some key points to bear in mind while implementing agile practices in your learning or research process. After that, we will review something very interesting and very important when we working with agile practices, which is a growth mindset, because agile is all about changing your mindset, not only about introducing some practices, ceremonies, and so on. And after that, we'll have a quick demo where I introduce you some tools that you can use to make your process of learning or research better. Okay. So let's get started with the introduction to Scrum. But before we we will review the complete framework. It will be just, some quite superficial but very interesting introduction. I'd like to introduce you the concept of iteration or sprint, right? So what is that? So basically, this is a fixed length event, usually between 2 and 4 weeks, where the team is working towards some sprint goal, building a product, and after that, in the end of this iteration, they will have an increment of the product to show to the stakeholders, right? This is all about delivering some products. Now, let's review the framework itself, right? So here we have different artifacts and different ceremonies, right? So first of all, let's review the main artifacts in Scrum, right? So first of all, I'd like to talk about product backlog, right? So what's the product backlog? Okay, so this is a dynamic list where you have different items, right, that compose your complete product, right? So it's all about products. Let's say if we're talking about some software, right, this is a list of all the items that compose this software product. Let's say, for example, this is a web application, and you have like a front end part, then back end part, and all of these parts are broken down into some smaller pieces of functionality, which compose all these product backlog items, right? So it's never complete because it's dynamic, as more is known and more is learned, so the product evolves over time. Okay, so now after that we have a sprint backlog, right? So this is very important because this is a list that is composed before the iteration or sprint starts, right? So the team gathers together to review and define what would be the main product backlog items they'd like to deliver this iteration, right? So it's all about why, what, and how, right? So the team decides on how they would like to organize to deliver everything by the end of the sprint. So, self-management aspect is very important in this case, right? So, and here we have the result. By the end of the sprint, we would have an increment, right? Which is, a concrete stepping stone toward the product goal, right? So the increment would represent some partial functionality that could be presented to the stakeholders so they can review it, see if it works well, etc., etc. Okay. Any question on this artifacts? Product backlog, sprint backlog, increment. Any questions?
What is before product backlog? It says emergent ordered list. Is there anything else before that?
When you say before that, you mean so like before we start our sprints, or I'm not sure if I quite follow your question.
Before you start the product backlog.
Okay, so well, in fact, we are talking here about some, some inception stage maybe, because, when you start a project, you'd have, it's basically you have nothing, right? So you have some idea, you have some vision developed, so you'd like to create some product. So the best approach would be to work together with the stakeholders, so the product owner. So we will talk a bit later about the roles, but the product owner should work with the stakeholders and in some cases with the Scrum Master to define some initial product backlog items, right? It doesn't need to be, too detailed product backlog items, but we need to define at least something that we'd like to start working on, right? Basically, this should be some high priority items, because otherwise we are not maximizing our value delivering the product. So we need to define some high priority items, like, okay, so what you guys want to, to be delivered by the end of our first sprints. And they say, okay, so these are some, crucial functionality. We can't do anything without this functionality. Okay, that's fine. And we just compose this product backlog, based on their inputs.
Could there be like a build versus buy decision, or product alternative or approach alternatives before the product backlog?
Well, could be the case. It could be the case, right? So, and here, if we're talking about pure Scrum approach, yeah. So the most important thing is, is to talk to the stakeholders. So what they want to do, right? So Scrum approach would be, having a dialogue with the stakeholders to understand their necessities, and after that, composing these initial product backlog items. So basically, it would be like that. So you'd have a meeting with the stakeholders asking, okay, guys, so you'd like
Thank
to
you.
have this web application. Okay, what would be the first functionalities you'd like to have? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. Any other question? Okay, let's move on. Now we have all the ceremonies, right? So let's briefly talk about each of these ceremonies. So first of all, we have sprint planning, right? So during the sprint planning, the team works together to create an action plan. So basically, what backlog items we'd like to take, right, and start working on during the sprint. So this is all about planning, right? So this is a planning event. And here, the team, they say, for example, like, okay, we'd like to, so connecting this conversation we had before, like we had a conversation with the stakeholders and they said, okay, we'd like to have this and that functionalities, like functionality A, B, and C. Okay, so and during the sprint planning, the team would say, so imagine that this is a first sprint, and the team says, okay, so we are ready to work on the functionality A and B, but C for now, let's postpone it until the next sprint. So this would be the case, right? And this is fine. And in this case, functionalities A and B would represent the sprint backlog the team would work on during the sprint. Okay, so what's happening during the sprint itself? So the team has daily Scrum, right? So this is a 15 minutes meeting. It's a time boxed event. So the team has 15 minutes to talk about what's going on within the team, to see if they are okay in terms of delivering and progressing toward the sprint goal, right? And in case they find any issue or any, some impediment or obstacle, so they can adapt the sprint backlog, usually negotiating and interacting with the product owner to be able to achieve the sprint goal, because the sprint goal in this case is the why, right? So why we're doing this work, right? So this is all about the functionalities and what we deliver by the end of the sprint. Okay, so and after that, when the sprint is over, we have a sprint review. So during the sprint review, we have a demo presentation to our stakeholders to show them, okay, guys, so you asked to deliver functionality A and B. So here it is. Let's review it. Do you have any comments, any observations, any ideas, and so on? So the stakeholders basically review the increment and providing some feedback about what was good, what was bad, right? So is there anything they'd like to tweak or they'd like to add to the product, and so on, right? So, and this feedback is used during the next sprint planning, right? So the team would have, better understanding of what they need to do during the next sprint. Okay, so and after that we have the sprint retrospective. Basically, the sprint retrospective is the ceremony when the team reflects on, on what's happening during the sprint. So what went good, what went bad. So, and is there any improvement action they could identify and take to start working on this improvement action in order to improve overall team performance, right? So it's all about, self-reflection at the team level, okay? Any question about these ceremonies in Scrum? Okay.
No questions. Everything is
Oh,
clear. So let's
all
go.
right. Great. Okay, so if there's no questions here, let's go to review roles in Scrum, right? So we have different roles in Scrum, and all of these roles are really important when we implement in the framework. So basically, there are three main roles, but also I've included here the stakeholders because it's really important to talk about this as they play a crucial role because it's all about the product and the product is for the stakeholders. Okay, so the first role is the product owner. So what does the product owner do? So the idea for the product owner role is to maximize the value the team delivers by the end of each sprint, right? Also, the role is needed to communicate to the stakeholders and also to communicate the product goal to the team. So the product goal is basically the purpose of existence of our project, right? And also, product owner is accountable to manage product backlog in terms of prioritization, right, and refinement. So the product owner should define some priority items, so high priority items, low priority items, and the idea is to deliver all the high priority items first, because doing that we maximize the value of the product. Okay. Any questions about product owner role? Okay.
Clear.
All right. Now we have the next role is the Scrum Master, right? So what does the Scrum Master do? So this is a servant leader. So he or she coaches the team to be self-manageable and cross-functional, and also facilitates all the Scrum events, right? So sprint planning, sprint retrospective, sprint review, daily Scrum, and backlog refinement, but this is an optional meeting. That's why we're not covering it here, because for now and applying to learning or research process, it's not that important, right? So the Scrum Master is basically the person who would help the product owner and the team to be the most efficient team in terms of their performance. Okay, right. So basically, briefly, this is it. So any questions about Scrum Master role? Okay.
Oh, you see, we have professionals here in Agile. No questions.
Yeah. All right. Now we have the developers, right, or Scrum team members. So what they do, they basically develop the product, right, and also they create a plan how they achieve the sprint goals. So how they would manage all of these items during the sprint, how they develop, test it, and put it to done, right? When the item is done, it means that it can be delivered to the customer, right? This is basically it. So development team or Scrum team members. So this is it. It's all about the product development. Okay. Any question about the developers or Scrum team members role?
We have a question from Thomas, I think, right? In the chat.
It's not a question. It's just some random thoughts.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer.
Uh-huh. Great. Thank you so much for participating in the discussion. Uh-huh.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Thomas. Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Right, so and the last but not least is the stakeholders, right? So who they are. So basically a stakeholder could be any person that is interested in the outcome of the project, right? So they are most likely the key users of the product. So they are, some final users, some end users that are going to use the final product. So it's very important to understand their vision of the product, right? So their thoughts, what they'd like to have to see in their product. So what would be some additional functionalities? Because usually when we start working on the product, we don't know much about, about the learning curve. So the learning curve normally is really steep. Say we need to have the constant conversation with the stakeholders to understand what's going on, if they are happy with the product or not. Because if we do though, if we're not including the stakeholders into our conversations, would be that, from the point of view of the development team, yeah, the product is perfect, it's excellent, fabulous, fantastic. But when it's delivered to the customers, they just, we've got some negative feedback, the comments like, okay, but it's what's not that we expected, and so on. So it's very important to have the constant conversation with the stakeholders to maintain this feedback cycle short. It's really important. Okay, right. Any questions about stakeholders?
Yury, I don't have questions about stakeholders, but I'm sure with us there are some, students who are
Mm-hmm.
not really yet in the world of Agile. So
Mm-hmm.
if you could bring some examples, taking any school project or research project or master thesis, or maybe you have a course, and within the course you have the course and the homeworks and the work and group and different
Yeah.
courses. How can we turn this into the student life? Maybe some practical example, like super
Yeah.
simple.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So I'd like to talk a bit further about this, the application. But basically, if we're talking in some plain terms, the stakeholder could be a university professor, right? So we have a coursework, or we have a research work, or we have an essay to, to deliver, right? So we deliver, in this case, I use this word deliver, but that's fine. That's fine. So, and your stakeholder is your professor, right? So you're working with some university professor. It's not really applicable to schools, right? It's somewhat applicable, but I say if we're to take a look at Scrum, which, as I said, is not the topic here of this session, we would see that it's a bit different in terms, some mindset and so on, because working with children is quite different. Right, in many terms, because there are many aspects we should bear in mind. So this is it. But on the most basic level, your stakeholder is your professor, right? So the person you should deliver your coursework or research work and so on. So this is it on some really basic level. Okay. All right. I don't know, Yulia, if I answered your question. I'd like to.
Yes, and I love it. I love it. Of
Mhm.
course, for example, if we take university course
Mhm.
for master degree students, so the professor is a stakeholder. How can we play roles? Because I really like some metaphoric things, like who can be the Scrum Master, the product owner, the Scrum team members, if it's a group project, maybe within the course.
And this is an interesting question, because in fact, if we're talking about some, some university type of work, the roles of product owner, Scrum Master, you could rotate, you could arrange a rotation on these roles. So, some one sprint, it will be, I don't know, Alex, who's going to play the role of the Scrum Master. And after that, the next sprint, Yulia would be a Scrum Master. And, and the Alex would be the product owner. So that's it. So we could arrange a rotation, because we're not talking about some some project where we have some budgeting and so on. So we have a large field to play. right? So because we are not so restricted in terms of budgeting, in terms of well, in terms of time, yes, we are restricted, but in terms of budgeting, it's always it put additional pressure, and the pressure sometimes is really, really high on the team. So yeah, in this case, I'd say it would be a nice idea, to get practice and to go switching roles over the iterations.
Perfect. We have also a comment here that for
Mm-hmm.
students, you could set up a study group as a Scrum team,
Mm-hmm.
or set up Scrum teams for a specific project within a class. Yeah, of course, it needs a little bit separate session on to discuss how, but definitely for teachers who are here, this is something to consider. Yeah, to practice this Scrum and Agile thing in action in the class.
Yeah, and
Now let's go
yeah.
further.
So and here, yes, I also have a comment, because the tools you are using is key in this case. So when we have the demo part of the presentation, I think it would be a bit more clear on on how we can do this. Right, seeing some real world tool we can use to work as a team. So it should be a bit more clear by the end of the session. Okay. All right. So this was all about the product approach. Now let's review the flow approach, right? So, and we're talking a bit about the Kanban framework, okay? So what is the Kanban? Kanban is basically a strategy to manage our flows. And by saying the flow, I mean that we have some work. It's not necessarily should be a product, right? So Kanban is really useful when we're talking about some operational or maintenance or support teams where we don't have a clearly defined product, or maybe this product itself doesn't exist in the team's context. So for example, I'm going to give you an example of a support team, for example, and then I'm going to explain where it's useful when we're talking about learning and research process. So basically Kanban could be applied in a support team. So imagine that we have a web application, and this application has some bugs, some defects, some errors, or maybe a user would like to know, some specific procedure or process to, to follow to achieve some results. So what they do, they contact support team, asking questions or telling about the problem they have, right? So maybe they're having some issue with the application, they are unable to log in and so on. So it could be any error or some best practices question, right? So, and in this case, the team is working on these requests. So they are working on user requests. So it's all about the product, but they are not developing the product itself, right? So they are just maintaining it, right? So they need to, to give support to all the users that have some problem or a question, okay? So, and there is the when we can apply the flow. So we need to manage this flow, right? So we have a lot of stuff going on. And let's imagine that we have Kanban board to manage our flow. So here we have 3 columns, right? So these are really basic and most used columns when we're talking about Kanban. So the first column is the requested or to-do list, right? So here we have all our backlog, right? In terms of user requests or whatever it is. In progress column is where we have all our work we're doing right now. We're working on some items. And when the item is done, so for example, we answered the user request and the user is happy with the answer provided and say like, okay, that's fine. You can go ahead and close this out. Okay, when we close the issue or the user request, it goes to the done column. Okay. So this is it. So this is our flow. And in this case, the like, for example, we're talking about the sprint planning sessions, right? Sprint planning in this case is not so applicable, right? So it could be the case where the team, gathers together, talking about, okay, so what are some high priority items we need to do today? And that would be like, some kind of a daily planning. Because it's not that useful to plan work in advance when we're talking about some operational teams, because basically we do not know whether we have or not some work in 3-5 days. We can't define some specific topic to work on, right? So this is important. And now something really interesting here is WIP limit. So what are the WIP limits? So this is basically a limit of the amount of work that we can have in progress simultaneously. Okay, so here in this example, we can see that the WIP limit is set to 3, which means that the maximum amount of the cards in the in progress column is 3 cards. So as we can see here, we have some, some process depicted where the user drags in uh, some card, right, from to do column to in progress. So with this yellow card, it would be 3 cards here, which means that we need to finish some work, and only after that we can pull in the rest of the cards. In this case, we have this one that sits here, right? But we are unable to pull it in into the in progress column because we are already have these 3 cards here. Okay, so and when some of these cards or any card is done and put to done column, yes, we can pull in these last card from to-do list. Okay, so this is basically what the Kanban is about. Any questions about this Kanban board and how
I
to
do,
manage the
I
flow?
do.
Yeah.
I'm so super excited about that. Who wanted to say? I will be the last one then. Nope. Did I interrupt somebody? No. So I'm super excited about this thing. I just started my first Kanban ever board in my life a few weeks ago, and I have a question to
Yeah.
you. Some hints on life hacks. So there are 2 ways to do it. The old school thing, when you take, a huge piece of paper, you take the post-it notes. I don't have them here, but the colorful ones. You write with a marker, so it's quite visible, and then you move the sticky notes from one column to each other, which is quite fun, I would say. And me as a neuropsychologist, I know that we're writing things, we use all our senses. It really kind of helps us to remember, recall, memorize things. And then you can use the different apps like Trello, for example, which is the easiest one for me, but there's pretty a lot in the market. But my problem with that is that the Kanban board, I'm not always in the room where I have it, so I made the one which I can carry with myself from one room to another, but that's quite big for me. And I usually forget this. I still keep everything in my mind, and then I have a certain day when I'm like, oh, I need to move the cards, and there's pretty a lot of movement there already. So what is the life hack to really not just do it, but really use it?
So your question is how to, let's say, because I'm not sure if I quite follow. So you have a large Kanban board which is physical, and you just you take it with yourself wherever you go while you're at home, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, nowadays we don't move too much with the COVID, so I'm just bringing it from my bedroom to the kitchen. But if I had to go to the office as well or to any co-working, then definitely that wouldn't be the option. So I also have an electronical version. So, but I tried the Trello one as well. And with Trello, you take time to fill everything in, but then all the daily hustle and routines, you still kind of forget to discipline yourself. And every time you do something or start doing or finish, to really move it and add on top of it. So is there any discipline like
Okay. Yeah. Now I got you. So let's see. In fact, so yeah, I was about to say the same. So Trello would be the best option because it's free, it's easy to use. So we're going to have it in my demo presentation. So I'm going to show you how we can use it and how can we establish all the process. So now, as you say, so you forget about something, right? So in this case, it's all about first the discipline. So you need to discipline yourself. So you need to work on this. So, but how to do this easier? So, right? I'd say let's try to use WIP limit of 1. So you'd have just one card in progress. So it would be easier to remember, right? And after that, to recall what was the work I was working on, basically, right? So what was the item, the card, the task. So use this WIP limit of 1, and you'd have a lot of cards in your to-do, maybe, right? A lot of maybe not, but you'd have just one WIP limit. So you just pull in one card, and you know this is my priority. This is the only card I'm working on for now. When it's done, it's done. So this is the time to pull in another card, right? When you're okay, when you're comfortable with the flow, you could increase it to 2, right? So you would have the WIP limits of 2, and then you'd have 2 cards. But as you are okay with the current flow of 1, you would have, you would require less time to manage yourself to work with 2 cards simultaneously, or maybe not simultaneously, but anyway, it would be easier for you to remember these 2 cards in progress, right? And after that, if you'd like, if you're okay, so now after that, so when we switch from 1 to 2 with our WIP limits, you need to to reflect on your work and to see and ask yourself, first of all, so am I doing it right? Am I doing it efficiently? Do I need to increase my WIP limits? Would I like to have it a bit more efficient in terms of my work in progress? But remember, working simultaneously requires you to juggle things, right? And it won't be easy. So I'd say one card is absolutely fine, but of course it depends on your priorities, right? So if you're talking about some personal needs, some personal projects, I'd say one card to start is absolutely okay, right? And after that, just go increasing WIP limits accordingly. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I also have a hint here in the chat saying that I need to do some daily reminder to actually, go to the backlog and putting the priorities. What I did, but I don't know if you already call it Kanban board because I modified it. I have, because I have so many things I'm working on, 3 columns were not enough for me.
That's
So I
okay.
also column called urgent, because sometimes suddenly some things they just fall from the sky and you need to do them as soon as possible. So you need to somehow do some trade-offs and the priorities. So I have set a hot column. I try to avoid putting things there, making them in advance, but suddenly you get a letter from the officials, knowing you need to do something and you couldn't have expected it. And there I have an urgent column, which really helps me. But with students who study, I think this is a fantastic tool because Yury, imagine, sometimes they have about, like, I don't know, 5 subjects, different topics happening, simultaneously during a week or a month. And they have such a big backlog, all the homeworks, projects, preparation for the classes, and also personal things, work related. So I think this visualization tools of all the things you do really, really helps you to have some, structure, order, the control thing that you're controlling things. And this is such a nice thing when you actually move things from the column done, and then in the end of the week you are actually looking like, wow, I have done so many things, This is also on the brain level, I think, stimulates the hormones which are responsible for driving action and succeeding and being brave and doing things. So this is definitely, if some, can you write in the chat, guys, are you using any kind of a Kanban board? If you're using, you can put a plus. If you're not using it, minus. And if I would say there's one little thing you can start doing today with an agile thing, I would say Kanban is something very easy to implement. Do you agree with me, Yury? Do you like Kanban boards personally?
Yes, yes, yes. Because I think it would be better to go to the demo presentation at the end of the session, and then we'll talk a bit more about that, because I'm going to show you so how can you manage all this flow. So it's really interesting your thoughts on this. Some urgent column. It's nice because this is a very interesting way, I think, to manage and to control your high priority versus low priority items, right? So on some basic level, without using some prioritization techniques, like for example, we have a Moscow prioritization technique, which is quite interesting. It's not that complicated, but you need some time, to understand what's all about. So, and take your time to define, the importance of each item. But here, having some urgent and non-urgent column would be fine. Yeah, we'll talk a bit later about this in detail. Okay, right. So any more questions about Kanban board for now?
We have
just
some discussion here.
Comment. Sometimes people add other columns, like for instance, what Julie was saying with the urgent, but I've seen people add like a blocked column. So, when you think about work in progress, if there's something that is totally unable to continue, you might want to separate it into a column where it's blocked or an impediment. And then you don't really see it as being in progress because it's stopped beyond your control maybe. And then you could bring in other work. But again, you don't want to have so many things pile up and blocked because it's a distraction and you want everything still moving.
That's right. This is something, I'd like to add as well. So the Kanban board is not, is not static. So you could customize it whatever you like. So you could add additional columns. So it's not, it's not a strict requirement to have only 3 columns. You may add, as many columns as you like, to improve your flow. So yeah. Thanks, Zach, for your comment.
Yury, can I share that? Because I'm so excited about my Kanban board. I'm not totally agile, but I really think that agile is something very much related to personal development. And I think it's very important, especially for students as young people who are developing their personalities. So I started to do 2 things as well when I'm not lazy, when I don't forget doing it. I'm not perfect yet. So the first one is the practice of gratitude. We had a separate session on gratitude. I think you participated as well. So I started with every paper I have. When it's done, I started to write who I'm grateful for accomplishing it. Sometimes it's my fantastic university who helped me to realize a project. Sometimes it's my husband who just brought me a cup of coffee when I was working on a marketing strategy. Sometimes it's just, a random person, maybe you, Yury, who recommended something to me and it opened my eyes. So you can, be very creative with your boards. It's not only about the task. And the second one, actually, to continue the first one, also sometimes if you want to work on your self-esteem, and the modern topic of loving yourself and so on, then you can also write a thank you note to yourself. So what I'm grateful for to myself in this task, I was very brave. Here I was very disciplined. Here I was like damn creative. So thank yourself. What helped you? I think this is related with self-reflection, which is very much related to agile. And and what was the second one? I lost my point, but I think that's enough talking for me. So let's go next.
Yeah, that's right, Yulia. So yeah, this is very interesting because it's all about self-reflection. It's a kind of a personal retrospective. you could arrange with yourself. Could be a bit, let's say, some would say, it's a bit weird, strange thing to do with yourself, but it's quite good actually. It's quite good because you have all these things, and the best thing is to visualize it, right? So as you said, write it down and have a moment to observe what you've written. So, and this is quite good, quite good. Okay, so guys, any more questions, or we're good to move forward? Okay. Now, let's review some really important points when we apply Agile to learning or research process, right? So, as we talked before, so our product in this case, if we're talking in some Scrum terms, right? So our product is our coursework or essay or research paper, etc. So anything we need to deliver while studying at a university or maybe at school, right? So this is our product. So we should work on our product to deliver it and ensure it has high quality parts, right? So our product backlog in this case would represent all the parts of our coursework, essay, or research paper, right? So during the demo session, I would show you how what would be the way to to breaking down the a coursework or research paper or an essay into some smaller pieces and how to manage it, right? Now, as I said, accurate breakdown is key because it's really important, because otherwise it would be complicated, because if we're talking about some coursework or research papers, they should be accurately structured, because if you have some poor structure in your essay or research paper, most likely it would be rejected. So it's just lack some fundamental things in it. Okay, so and the question to ask during the sprint, so how we compose our sprint backlog and what parts of the coursework or research paper are we going to work on this iteration. Yeah, so this is very important, especially if you're alone. It could be the case, so we'll talk a bit later about this. So if you're alone and for example, as we talked with Yulia, you are applying some Kanban way of doing things, so you need to ask this question. So what are the parts I'm going to work on this iteration? So yeah, and how I achieve to complete all of these parts that I have planned. All right, after that, we have already covered that. So weep limits are really important because weep limits allow you to stay focused, right? So you have only one part of work to work on, or maybe 1, 2, 3 tasks, right? But you stay focused, right? So ideally, if you're alone, it would be better to have, as I said, just one task at a time, right? And now sprint review is also important because this meeting is an opportunity to talk to your professor, asking question like is that okay? If it's not, why is that? So we need to get some detailed feedback from the professor, because otherwise it would be complicated for us to understand, because unfortunately sometimes it happens then you have some bad mark, and the student just he or she doesn't ask a question. It's just it's like, okay, I'm frustrated and so on. But instead of being frustrated, you need to understand what was the issue, right? So what was the issue? So what's been done incorrectly or wrong, or whatever, right? And what can be done to improve your work, right? It's really important. And sprint retrospective, if we're talking about sprint retrospective, as I said before, we need to do some self-reflection in case you're alone, or if you're working in a group, in a team, right? So you have various students that compose your team. So we need to ask some questions like what went well, what to improve, and so on, right? So also I'm going to show you a free tool for arranging retrospectives, so we can see further how we can structure this. Okay, so any questions about these points? Breakdown, product backlog, sprint backlog, product. Any questions? Anything?
Somebody was asking in chat about Facebook Live, if the administrator has a URL.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm going to share the slides. I'm going to share a PDF with all the clickable links because I have some links prepared. So yeah, when we finish our session, I'm going to pass the presentation to Yulia, and we're going to share it to all the participants.
While you were talking, I tried to change the settings, so I don't know if it works. Can you save the chat if you wanted? If not, I will have it saved, and then after the meeting, we can send the links and all the information to you. You cannot save the chat.
Okay.
Most probably you cannot change it once you start it, so sorry for that, guys. So I will send you all the information then afterwards.
Okay. Right. All right. Let's review the next part. Right, so this is really interesting. So I'd like to talk a bit about some growth mindset, right? And I'd like to review these 10 growth mindset statements, which are really important because in fact, if we're talking about, you know, life learning process, right? It's really important to have the growth mindset and not a fixed mindset. So let's see. The first statement says, instead of thinking like I'm not good at this, try thinking, what am I missing? So connected to the previous conversation, right? So this is it. This is what we could do. Using the opportunity to talk to the professor at the sprint review, right? Or any other opportunity when we're interacting and having a conversation with our professor, right? So it's not that good. So you know, it's some really fixed mindset statement that I'm not good at this. So if you're not good at this, so and what's next? So like you could ask this question. So what's next? So I'm not good at this. It's not. It's some negative thinking. It's some negative thinking, and it's not. It's counterproductive. In fact, all of these statements are counterproductive. So if you're thinking like this, so you are limited, and it's not good. So you need to grow. You need to grow. So in case of thinking like this, try to asking yourself a question. So what am I missing? So try to focus yourself on some missing parts, right? On something that, okay, so I have lack of this or that, so I need to improve my, I don't know, public presentation skills or math skills or whatever it is, right? But it's important to ask and keep asking this question. So what am I missing? And if
Let's
you are
do a
asking this,
practical task, Yuri. If you're okay to share, can we think of something we think we're not good enough in something, and we can share it in the chat? I would gladly work on that now. Yeah, just to practice a little bit. So, and we can write, I'm not good at something, and then convert it to the formulation, what am I missing? I truly love it. I've never had that approach. Haven't seen that. Truly nice one.
okay, guys, if you'd like, yes, you could share it in the chat. So, but I know, you know, some people are really shy while, you know, sharing this stuff publicly. So no problem. So anyone who'd like to share, who's okay to sharing and doing this exercise, go ahead. just no problem.
My example, and you can comment if I get it right. For example, I'm as a marketing strategist, I think I'm not good enough in specifically digital marketing. So what am I missing? Honestly, I'm missing the motivation to dig into this. Is it already enough, or should I dig into some other level of reflection?
Well, you could ask yourself another question, right? And I'm going to ask yourself a question. So let's see. So if you're not good at digital marketing, right? And you're missing the motivation. So, but what's next? Okay, you said that. Okay, you're missing something. So what's next? What would be your improvement action? You need to define and identify and then define and then work on some improvement actions. So in this case, think about that. So what would be your improvement action in this case? You're not good at digital marketing. You are missing your motivation. So what's next?
Mm-hmm. So there are, I think, two choices. The first one is to be okay with not being okay with digital marketing, like not focusing on that and accepting that I don't need it, maybe, yeah, and start feeling good about it, not feeling bad about it. And the next step is that getting an intensive training or practicing digital marketing or getting a mentor or a course or read every day 5 minutes or anything like that. Is it the right way of thinking I have, or not really?
So yeah, you need, in fact, you need to identify what's important for you, right? So what's important for you, because if you're not good at digital marketing, ask yourself then. So and you know that you know you're missing the motivation. All right, that's fine, that's fine. But now, and if you're unsure, you know, whether or not keep practicing or keep studying digital marketing, ask yourself why it's important for me. So what's in it? So do I need it to, you know, to earn more money? Or do I need it to complete some really important project that is indeed important for myself? Is it the case? If not, well, maybe you just have some other priorities to focus on instead of just wasting your time trying to, you know, get better with digital marketing matter. Think about that.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Yury. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. So let's see the comments in the chat. Can do advanced math? Personally, I gave up on calculus a long time ago. Maybe I should go back and study it, or think I'm going to use part of it instead, like successfully. Yeah, yeah. Well, so regarding your statement, Doug. So the same question: why it's important for you? Do you really need it? Do you really need to do advanced math? So I mean, would you earn more money, or would you feel happier when you do this advanced math? So this is a really interesting question to ask yourself. So because maybe, you know, sometimes you just you know, you're stuck into something, and you're just you know, your vision is so blurred that you're unable to identify, is it really important? Because sometimes when we are fixed on some you know, some minor detail and trying to resolve this detail, and it keeps harder and harder to resolve it, and we just, you know, we feel some, you know, some frustration or even despair. But in this case, just stop and ask yourself, like, do I really need it? Sometimes need to study pass a class just to get a degree or to get a certification to meet job offer requirements. Yeah, this is important. This is important. So, and if you need to get a degree, I'd say, so try to identify some improvement actions, and that would be, you know, talk to your mates in class, like, you know, who are really good at it, and try to learn from them. Or maybe, you know, ask them to explain your some of the complicated topics you're not able to deal with yourself. So I'd say do that, right? So if you, this is another thing, this is another interesting thing you have. So when you're trying to achieve some level, right, some high level at anything, you know, be it math, or, you know, you'd like to move up the career ladder or whatever. So you need to, you know, you need to surround yourself with some people who are really experts in this matter, and then learn from them. keep asking questions, having a conversations, some meaningful dialogue, and that would help a lot. Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
that's right. That's right. So as Doug dropped the message here, so breaking down the work, as you said, it can really help. So you can achieve smaller steps and not overwhelmed by one big task that seems impossible or takes too long and you don't see progress. Yes, that's correct as well. Yes, that's right. So that's why I said that breakdown is key, because indeed, if you have, a really huge task to complete, it's absolutely useless, because you won't be able to complete some huge tasks, but rather if you break it down into some smaller digestible pieces, right? So you would be able to work on each of them separately, and you would see some progress. So step by step, you'd have some progress towards the main goal, let's say. Okay. And then Maru said, I would like to add that having a peer group of diverse people with diverse approaches to learning, growing, career management is my mix. Yeah, that's right. That's right. No need for it to be a mastermind, but a group of peers you get well along with, even if different branches leads to useful peer coach. That's right. Yeah, yeah. So as I said, my approach, yeah. So and I think it's a bit more personal approach, like when you have. I prefer, surround myself with some experts, asking questions, having conversations, to progress, maybe faster. But it works for me. It doesn't mean that it works. It would work for everyone. So you need to find your pace, right? So yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, let's go further. Now, instead of I'm awesome at this, try thinking I'm on the right track. Right, and this is good, because if you say I'm awesome at this, it's also counterproductive, and also it's all about your self-esteem. But if you have your self-esteem exaggerated, it's not a good thing as well. So you need just to keep thinking that if you're awesome at this, it doesn't mean that you know anything about this, because most likely it's virtually impossible to know everything about any matter, be it math or I don't know, team management, etc. So it's absolutely impossible to know everything. So there's always something new to learn. So, and you need to have it in mind, while doing some stuff, right? So in if you're on the right track, as Maru said, it would be nice to talk to your peers, because sometimes each person would have a different point of view, and talking to people, asking questions, and asking them to provide their opinion would be very nice, very interesting, because sometimes you think this way, but other person would say, okay, but I'd like to do it a different way, and this different way has many interesting details in it. So, and you say, oh my god, it's like this aha moment when you say, like, right, but I never thought about this way. So yeah, would be really nice. Okay, so yeah, purpose biases. Yeah, that's nice. Purpose biases. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So then, instead of give up, try thinking I'll use some of the strategies we've learned. Yeah. So as always, there's always another way of doing things. So instead of giving up, well, bearing in mind as well that sometimes, yes, sometimes it's just some of the things you're working on could be, really complicated, or maybe even there's no solution to it. It could be the case, but I'd say these are some extreme cases, right? Um, Instead of this, try thinking about some new strategies, some new ways of doing things. It will help. Yeah. So now, instead of thinking like this is too hard, try thinking this may take some time and effort. And that's true, because like if you think about anything, it's too hard. Well, what's in it? well, it's counterproductive because it won't help you, it won't make you happier, it won't solve the problem, right? But you need to elaborate a strategy, right? And think about that, this strategy would take some time and effort to elaborate and to work on. Yeah. Now, instead of thinking like, I can't make this any better, think like, I can always improve, so I'll keep trying. So keep trying, because it's really important, right? So there's always something to improve, but be careful, because to improve doesn't mean that you need to do it all the time. Sometimes the things are good as they are without any improvement. Be careful with this one. Now, I just can't do math, right? So something that Doug was talking about. So I just can't do math. I'm going to train my brain in math. Could be the case, yeah. But I think it's not really, strictly related to the situation Doug has. But in fact, sometimes some people just struggling, with math because they're good at English or Spanish, or I don't know, any language, or some cultural studies, anything that is not related to science. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. But this is a good thing to think about, and maybe to train your brain, because it's good for you. It's good for you to train your brain, because it's really, really, it would extend your understanding. Yeah.
Yury, can I
Now,
share a success story here? So, when you
yeah.
have this voice in your head saying, I can't do maths, I cannot cook, I cannot be a public speaker, I can't be whatever, the first step for me was to actually understand whose voice is it? Is it some friend, friend in brackets, who told you you are bad in something? Maybe it comes from your family. Maybe it was your mother or father saying, oh, in our family, we're so bad in maths, we just cannot do it. But, you are not your parents, right? So
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's, a teacher, a wrong teacher who impacted your self-perception. And then you can really practice this thing. That was specifically with me with cooking. Like for many years, I was joking and saying that, hey, I'm not a good cook. I cannot do cooking. I'm a horrible wife. And then that was the moment with the lockdown when all the restaurants were closed. So I had no choice than to start cooking, and not just simple foods, but raw vegan. So actually cooking without cooking. So fresh veggies and fruits. So I had to be creative because I got so hungry and I wanted something delicious to treat. And voila, I started my little food blog on raw vegan, and is amazing. I can cook. Wow. So I was just, how do we have it here? I was training my brain in cooking, and with every little
Mm-hmm.
step, I just, became better and better, so I can feed myself finally. So really, so step number one, where are the stereotypical cliche thoughts are coming from? And step number two, just try doing it a couple of times, and that's it. You will get better. That's for sure. If I got better in cooking, you have the chance, really.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And it's all about the next few statements. Look, so I made a mistake, but try thinking instead, mistakes help me to learn better. And after that, she's so smart, I will never be that smart. Try thinking, I'm going to figure out how she does it, right? So this is it. So this is really important, because when we made a mistake, the natural reaction we have is that we are frustrated, we are upset. So like, okay, I made a mistake, that was bad, right? But this is not this is not the end of the world. So, and you need to use every mistake as an opportunity to learn. This is really important. And many people don't have this mindset, like, I made a mistake, okay, everything is awful, everything is bad, I'm a disaster, and so on. But in fact, if you change this, if you make this click in your head, it would be, a huge improvement for yourself. So like, think about this like this. So any mistake I made was an opportunity to learn, right? So why I did that? What was wrong? What went wrong? So, and how can I improve? And this is really important. And the same comes to the statement number 8. So I'm going to figure out how she does it. So if anyone, let's say someone is better than me, it's not a reason to envy, but it's more about figuring out, so how they do that. I'd like to do the same. So how they do that? So what are the strategies they are applying? How can I elaborate a strategy like that? So these are the questions we should ask yourself. And doing that, we will be able to grow indeed, right? So, and let's review the last two statements. So instead of it's good enough, try thinking, is it really my best work? Also a good statement, but be careful as with the statement number 5. So I can always improve, so I'll keep trying. And is it really my best work? Be careful, because depending on some specific and particular context, it would be best to leave the things as they are, as I said. Okay. So, and the last statement, so plan A didn't work. Well, instead of that, try thinking, good thing the alphabet has 25 more letters. Yeah. So that's fine. So if plan A didn't work, well, plan B most likely would succeed. Yeah. Or plan C or any other plan. It's not a reason to get frustrated or upset. It's just, it's just a learning path. It's a learning path. So I made a mistake. Plan A didn't work. So what's in it? Well, it's an opportunity to learn and to elaborate a different and improved plan. Yeah, that's it. So, guys, any other questions, thoughts, comments, observations?
I only joined for the last quarter, but I think you should hold this in many venues. I think this talk could be valuable to thousands of students. I think they would literally save their studies and maybe more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, because in fact, yes, and many people, including myself. So, because these, fixed mindset is I'd say, is a natural way of thinking for most of the persons. Say, and and we need to develop this growth mindset. It's not like it's not inherited, right? So it's not about some inheritance. It's basically a skill to develop. It's like, many people say like, okay, so public speaking, some of these public speakers were born as a public speakers. Oh my God, is it? No, it's so I'd say no, bollocks. I mean, that's it. So you just need to develop these skills, and it's absolutely okay to make mistakes, learn from these mistakes, and and moving forward. Yeah. Anything else to share, guys? Okay, let's go to the last part where I'd like to share something, some tools that you could use. Okay, I'm going to, I think I need to stop sharing because I can't, it's not about sharing the whole screen, or maybe just, let's try this.
Do you also need
yeah, maybe that's fine. Can you guys see the screen now? It should
we do see
show,
Trello. The Trello.
Yeah, that's
one. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, that's it. So I'd like to show you how you can manage and organize your work using Trello. Trello is a free tool, so you can register a new account, and then you'll be able to access to your boards, right? And you can create a sample dashboard. as I have created here, right? So what do we have in Trello? In Trello, we have this button. So when you start, and if you are not using any template, you would see this, the same screen, and this button, add list. So I'm going to add the list, and I'm going to name it to do. Okay, so I click add list, and here we go, right? So this is basically a column. So a list is a column. Now, I'd like to add more. So I'd like to add in progress, and I'd like to add done. Okay, so now we have it. Okay, so we have 3 columns. So to do, in progress, done. So I can basically start working, adding some cards to Trello. Now, these are 3 basic columns we would have in Kanban board. But as I said before, Kanban board is not limited to have only 3 columns. So you can customize whatever you like, and accordingly to your needs. For example, I have to do in progress done, all right, but I need a backlog, right? So I'd like to say backlog. Okay, so I would have backlog, and most likely I'd like to drag it to the left side, right? Because I'd have backlog, and from this backlog, let's say I'd have assessment 1. I'm just going to add some cards, assessment 2, and assessment 3. All right. Okay, so I have some backlog, and if I have, let's imagine that you are not alone, right? So when you're not alone, you can arrange a meeting to plan, right, what you're going to do during your sprint or iteration. But before you plan, you need to set some time limits, right? So would your iteration be 1 week long, or 2 weeks long, or 3 weeks long? Well, here I have an advice for you. So if you're doing it yourself, you need to understand how frequently would you interact with your professor, right? So if you're interacting, well, in fact, in general, it's good if you interact with your professor on a frequent basis, let's say on a weekly basis, right? That would be fine. And in this case, your sprint would be 1 week length, right? But if it's not about weekly interactions, it could be 2 weeks, right? In case it's 3 weeks or 4 weeks, could be the case, but here it depends, heavily on the context. Because why is that? If you have, some long iterations, you would most likely do a lot of work, and a lot of work would be passed from to do to in progress and to done, and after that you would have a pile of cards in your backlog to be delivered, right? And after that, when you're talking to your professor, and he or she says, oh, you know what, this is not okay, and this is not okay. So like assessment 2 and 1, 2, 3. So you were working 3 or 4 weeks on these assessments, but it's not that I expected, and so on. So, and after that, all right. So you got this feedback, right? From the professor. Now you need to you need to tweak something, you need to make some corrections, and so on. And well, you have another 3 to 4 weeks. It's a long time. So I'd say that would be nice to at least try to establish these weekly interactions with your professor, or maybe a fortnight interactions. Fortnight means 2 weeks, right? So a fortnight interactions or weekly interactions with your professor to get him or her involved in the process, right? Otherwise, it won't be that efficient. Okay, so this is about your planning, all right? Now, so breakdown structure. Okay, so let's imagine that I think I'm going to delete this just to make it easier. I'm going to archive, delete real quick here. Yeah. So how can you do the breakdown structure, right? I'm going to show you some clear example. imagine that you are working on an essay, right? So what would you have in an essay? Well, you would have an introduction, right? Then you would have some main body part, right? So main body part, I'm going to paste it like that, main body part. So like pros and cons, or maybe if you'd like to do that, let's do it even easier. So some pros, then you'd have some cons, and then you'd have conclusion, right? So now imagine that. So imagine that you're alone and you're working on an essay you need to deliver, right? And you have this WIP limit, right? Or you can do it like that, like 1 in the parentheses. Or you could just you could explicitly say that WIP limit. Oh my god, yeah, 1. Okay, or maybe let's do it like that. Okay, so you have in progress WIP limit 1, and to do you need you need to plan something to do. In this case, let's imagine that this is your complete backlog, right? So you won't have anything else, and you'd say, okay, I'd like to do let's say and you have a 1 week sprint. So in 1 week what would you do? So you would work on introduction and some pros, right? So we do not know what's it all about. Is it some concrete essay topic? It doesn't matter in this context. It's just about how you manage it. So, and you see, so in progress WIP limit 1. So you think, okay, so 1, then I'm going to pull in 1 card, and first I'm going to work on the introduction. Yeah, but sometimes it shouldn't be necessarily the introduction. So if you find yourself in a situation where you think that, I'm absolutely okay to work on pros first, and it's easier for me, I have some thoughts, I have something to write, right? No problem. You can just pull in the pros card, work on that, and when it's done, put it to done. Yeah. So, and after that, you would have, and let's imagine that you work on the introduction, and by the end of the sprint, you've done it. And yeah, that's it. That's amazing. So you'd have your review with the professor, and then you would get some feedback. And what you can do here, or so you have basically 2 options. If it's not that huge backlog, you could just go and write a comment like that, like introductions, or just things to fix, add, tweak, whatever, right? And you can just go ahead and paste in your like things to fix and so on, right? And then you just save. Right, so you'll see that you have 1 comment here, and you just pull it in back into to-do list. Okay, and after that you click on that, and you'll see your comment. So you have all the feedback captured, so you know what is the things to fix. Okay, now any questions about this approach?
Yeah, we're not advertising Trello here with Yury. Not at
No,
all.
no. It's yeah. It's just a tool which is free and easy to use. Yeah.
And
So because
we had a question, how many users actually we have in a free version, and I checked it out. So you can do up to 10 boards with unlimited members with the free version. So that's pretty much a lot. So this is why we actually recommend Trello. But of course, I have sent a long list, and I will also duplicate it in the email so you can play with them. For every user experience, there is a solution, I would say.
Yeah, and also, it's really nice to use Trello instead of, for example, some other tools like Jira, because Jira is absolutely not good for a student. I mean, it's absolutely amazing for a development team, but for a student, it's overly complicated. So, and it's not really, it's not really something that we'd like to have. We'd like to have some really simple tool you can use, right? So let's see. And for example, speaking about the cards, and imagine that you have some more participants in your team. What you can do is you can add a member to card to work on, like you see. So, well, I'm alone here. Okay, I'm going to add myself. And you see that my icon with my photo appears here at the bottom of the card. So, which means that if you have a group of people, you can decide yourself, and this is called self-management, right? So you could say, okay, guys, who'd like to work on the introduction? Yeah, so, okay, Yury is going to work on the introduction. Who'd like to work on the pro section? And they say, okay, like, I don't know, Jane is going to work on the pro section, and so on, right? It's not limited to only one member, so you can add more members using this plus button. So you can add more members. For example, Jane say, okay, I need Yury to help me on this card. So, okay, I'd say, all right, so I'm in this card, so let's add Jane, and Jane is going to work with myself on this item to deliver. Okay. Right, that's it.
I need to give another chance to
Okay,
Trello.
guys, any other questions?
We have a very
Yeah, Trello is nice.
we have people talking that there is some other like Confluence or Click something. So there definitely much more to try out there. Yury, we have, I think, already the end of our session.
Yeah.
We have
Okay.
something else to show. Did you prepare anything else?
Yeah, just one last tool I'm going to share. Just give me a second.
And I
I'm
have
going to
just
share.
3 slides to summarize.
Yeah. Just 1 second. I'm going to share this one. Can you see it now, guys?
Yep, we do.
Yeah, so this calls retro.io. This is a free platform as well, where you can run your retrospectives. Right, it's really good. It's really simple, and it's similar to Trello because you have your columns here, right? So, and here you can see what went well. So each participant could fill in the card, right? So good teamwork, right? So good teamwork. We don't have any like any other column that said what went bad, like, right? So, but that's fine, right? So what didn't went well, we could customize this tool as well. So we could fill in the cards, so all the participants, and then we most likely would have a conversation about what would be the things to improve, right? So, like, for example, more communication with the professor, right? Like that, or more communication with my peers. Could be anything, right? So, and after that, this tool has what is called Action Tracker, where you could find all these improvement actions. So if I'd like to really work on this action, so when the team decides that this is the action, right? So I convert it to the improvement action and paste it into action items column. And I can assign the status, like open in progress, done, or rejected. And I can assign the responsible person, be it myself or the team or any other team member. Okay, so yeah, that's it. So having in mind that we're short of time, so and we ran out of time, so I'm going to stop here. So guys, any questions you have, just let me know.
Retrospectives we didn't go into, but retrospectives, retro meetings is a big part of the agile game. So always after you're done, always look back, always analyze what worked, what didn't work, reflect, improve. This is really great. I think we need to make a separate session on that. Can I share just a couple of slides?
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing here.
Something super simple. Sorry for the guys who are professionals in Agile, but for the ones who is starting, that helped for me to understand the whole complicated story. So we need to kill the waterfalls, the old school approach on project management. However, not always. We didn't talk about it, but it's not always agile, which is needed in specific time and in specific place. But for a study process, I guess we should get more agile as teachers, as students. So instead of treating something as really big and really hard, we need, to stop being these ants, and we need to become these happy people we have on the second part of the picture, which actually divides the work into some slices, pieces, tiny bits. And this bite-sized section really help to make the things done. So for me, this is a mind-changing picture. For example, with me writing a PhD research now, if you look at this as a whole big pile, as an elephant you cannot move, you will never do it. Yeah, but if it's just an introduction, just a separate part of one chapter, then it looks doable and it's very motivating. The second one, well, I seem to be hungry because I'm talking again about food. This is, as I wrote in the chat, is something like much more than agile. But this is a very nice thing on how we can look at this as a process. So imagine you have a birthday party, you need to make a beautiful, delicious cake. And then usually what we start is a butter layer, then we separately cook the icing, then the jam, then we cook the top layer, and then we do the integration, and then we have a cake. But we can do it in a different way. So we can start very simple and just start with a little simple cupcakes, which smell very good, and you can eat them, and they're nice, they're sweet. Just in case something unpredictable happens and your guests are coming just, I don't know, a couple of hours in advance, you have something for them already, a ready minimum product, which will satisfy their hunger for something sweet, for the craving. Or then you have time, you can add something small, an ice cream, and then you can use some feedback from people who actually eat, and you can decorate it and add a cherry on top, and then you can gradually expand, add more, decorate, make it like super user friendly and with the taste they really expect. And of course, then you can scale the diversity to independent units. So here we have a variety. So every time I'm starting the task now, I'm trying to ask myself, okay, am I cooking the cake now, or I better change my mindset and do my cupcakes? And the last one here, I am sorry if you have seen it many times, but nothing explains agile better for me. When we talk about a product, whether it's your master thesis, a project, a homework, an assignment, then you can try to do it instead of building the car, starting with a separate wheel, which is nothing, you cannot drive it, then connecting two wheels which still do not deliver its final objective, because you cannot go from point A to point B, and then the part of the car which is not usable, and then make it with a roof so you can finally drive, which is expensive, difficult, and takes time. You can really think, okay, I need a function, I need a transport. So, hey, what about the skateboard? Well, not fast enough, not very convenient, but still it can already drive. Then you put a stick and you have kind of how do you call it, a scooter. Then you build some more compartments, the wheels, and it's a bicycle. Well, it's still not very satisfying, but it's better than nothing. You can drive faster. And then you turn it into a nice motorcycle, and then you add the final part and you have a cabrio. And here for me, we talked about being good enough or not being good enough. We always need to ask what is actually needed, because if you do assignment, do you really need to build the roof? Because in this illustration, for example, it may be that we're designing a car for people who live in Spain, and they don't need a roof because they need a cabrio, because it's nice weather with the wind and they can enjoy the ride. So you have spent so much effort into actually designing the roof, but it's not there. So yeah, for me, agile is all about thinking about the consumer, thinking about yourself as well, and just doing the right things in the right way, not doing too much but also not doing too less. So making the cars which are perfect for the times when we need them, and not anything else. So this is very simple for me. I'm just in love with this visuals. I would do it too, with them, just to remind myself on what is agile in pictures. So Yury, summary.
Okay, so a summary would be that, you know, it's really interesting to implement agile practices into a learning or research process, right? So it's not only about software development. So, and we need to be aware of that. So, and we need to start thinking about, you know, is it really helpful for us to, you know, to help us grow, to help us deliver better presentations, better researches, anything, right? So it's all about the mindset. This is the most important thing because it's all about the mindset. It's not only about the, you know, the ceremonies, the events, and so on. Because, you know, technically it could be anything, but what you have in your head is absolutely important. So pay attention to it. So, and you know, and make well-informed decisions. So you need, you know, to investigate more, finding out if it's okay for you, if it really helps you to achieve your goals, and you know, just do this. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks to National University of Science and Technology, MISIS in Moscow for support. Thanks to all the participants. And please, please, please check the Agile 20 Reflect page for more events. Yury, are you doing any events or you're done with them? I know you have made a lot of
Yeah,
them.
I've made a lot, and yes, this is my last event at the festival. So
Wow.
for now, yeah, for now it's done. It's done. It was a nice ride, but yeah, for now it's done. So yeah, but really happy because the fest is really nice, really important. So I learned a lot, met some interesting people, some amazing persons. So I'm really happy to be here and to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm saving the chat to share because we had a very interesting discussion there and some links to our LinkedIn just to connect. Thank you guys and bye-bye. Let's be happy and let's be agile.
Thank guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Julija.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Yury. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye from London.
Bye-bye, London. Have a good day.
Yeah.